Thomas, we're ready.
All right, the meeting of the Goldsboro Mayor's Youth Council is now called to order.
Okay, I will call roll now. Mary Archibald, Hannah Cox.
Here.
Okay, Kendall Lee,
Here.
Anna Miranda. Okay, Natalie Moore, Rohan, Larissa Stedman, Thomas Sumner,
Here.
Vismitha Tanetti,
Here.
Okay, that concludes roll call.
I'm also here. I don't know if you got me.
Okay, I got it.
Thank you, Ivan. Do you want to go ahead and do the meeting minutes while you're available?
Oh yeah, okay, hold up. I gotta pull it up. I don't know where it went. I just had it up. Okay. The minutes from December 2nd, 2020. The meeting was called to order by Chair Kendall Lee at 5 p.m. and the secretary called the roll. I read out the minutes and Carter moved to approve the minutes. Kendall seconded the motion and the minutes were approved. Chair Kendall Lee and Vice Chair Vismitha read out different prompts and we showed our cards to show our agreement or disagreement. Vismitha read the announcements and Thomas adjourned the meeting at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Ivan. Is there anyone who wants to move to approve these minutes? No? Okay, I motion to approve the minutes.
And Madam Chair, we just need a second.
I second the motion.
Thanks, Thomas. All right, do you want to move forward with the introduction of our guest today, Ms. Felicia?
Okay, we need to let parliamentarian finish out the motion, the order. So Thomas,
Aye.
we just need all in favor to say aye.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
If anyone opposes, say nay. All right, meeting minutes for December 2nd are approved.
Okay, thank you, executive board members. So good afternoon, everyone. Certainly delighted and excited and honored to introduce and have our two esteemed guests with us tonight. I'm very proud to say that they are two of my favorite coworkers. So I just want to introduce Chief Mike West from the Goldsboro Police Department and Chief Joseph Dixon from the Goldsboro Fire Department. So thank you so much, Chiefs, for being with us on today. I also want to add that while I had the opportunity, I'd just like to personally and publicly thank you both for your continued support of the Youth Council. Anytime and every time that I've reached out and called you to, you stepped up and provided us with what we needed. So I just want to publicly thank you both and your departments. for your continued support of the Youth Council. And just also want to share that we were not able to do our annual gift wrapping for 2020, but for 2019, I just had a thought of reaching out to the police department and the fire department to see if they would be willing to come out and wrap a few gifts with us at Berkeley Mall. And so when I reached out to both chiefs, um, just the amount of support, the number of officers that came, the number of firemen that came, and Chief Dixon, there were so many firemen showing up every day. I had to call the person that you put in charge and say, okay, we've got enough. But I just want you both to know that they were the showstoppers at the mall. They brought us lots of customers, so we really enjoyed that. It was just a beautiful display of unity in the community. So again, I just want to thank you both for your continued support of the Youth Council. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So we're gonna move on. So just like with everyone else in the world who's anticipated holding events or hosting events last year, the Youth Council anticipated holding a career day event. So in lieu of that, today we're gonna have just a career-focused meeting, which is why we have our two guests, our two chiefs with us today. So Chief West, our chair, Ms. Kendall Lee, she's gonna ask you a few questions about your career in the police department. And Chief Dixon, our vice chair, Ms. Vismitha Tanetti, will ask you a few questions, and then we'll just wrap up with questions on the floor from anyone. Okay, so Madam Chair.
Hi, Chief West. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing good as well. Thank you again for coming.
Good.
My first question is, when did you become a police officer and what inspired you to do so?
1992, several years ago. Basically what inspired me, I grew up in a military family. My father was Seymour Johnson. He retired out of there. So I kind of grew up in a structured environment, kind of the desire to serve others and help. My initial goal was to go into the military. That didn't pan out for me when I graduated high school. So I was still looking something that I could do for others. And I got kind of focused more on what can I do for the community. So that's what kind of got me in the door at the police department. But again, yeah, that was back in 1992. And I had thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, it was just that desire to help the community, or, you know, serve the state, serve the country. And I decided to serve my community.
Oh, wow. Okay. What was the process of becoming an officer, and has it changed since you first started in 1992 with people you see?
Yeah, the overall process hasn't changed. It's BLET. You know, you've got to submit an application. If you're accepted, you've got to go through BLET, which is about a 4-month training out at the college. Doesn't necessarily have to be at Wayne Community College. It could be at any college. Once you graduate from that, you become certified as a sworn officer, and then it's just a matter of trying to pick up with a department that can kind of finish the next phase. And the next phase is to get on with the department. Once you're on the department, you're assigned to a training officer, which is about 4 more months of training geared specifically to that department. And then was fortunate enough to make it all through that and begin my career as a patrol officer, again, back in the Stone Age of 1992.
All right. What are the benefits of being a police officer?
The benefit for me, and I think overall, is you know, police officers, regardless of what we see nationwide and in what kind of gets pushed up in the media all the time, I still honestly believe that law enforcement officers, public safety, including the fire department, we are held kind of in high regard in the community. So I think that's a satisfaction for officers that are doing this, and the knowledge and the ability to help others. It's a job that you're never going to get bored at it. It's going to change every day when you come to work. It's something different. You learn early on how to deal with people. You learn a lot of patience. There's a lot of opportunity with police departments. There's a lot of divisions within those departments. So you can grow and gain experience throughout that department. And then ultimately, again, you're contributing to the community. You're helping your fellow citizens, and you're helping your community.
Great. Are there any disadvantages or cons to being a police officer?
The dangers, it's very dangerous. All jobs have some sort of inherent danger with it, but it is a job that you just don't know. Any day that you walk out the door to go to work, that could be the last day that you do go to work. So the dangers are there. There's a lot of stress. not only for the officer themselves, but it's also a lot of emotions and a stress for the family. So you've got to have a very strong support group with your family. The hours, long hours, rotating shifts. And I think early on in the career, a lot of our contact with the public is usually in less than good circumstances. So I think as a kind of lose side in everything. So you got to be very mindful of that and cognizant of it, and always try to prevent that from kind of being your overall thoughts of the community. So those are some of the disadvantages to being a police officer.
Gotcha. How did you become police chief? Like, what was the process of becoming that?
28 years. When I became interim chief, I'd been there for about 22, 23 years. It was just progressing up through the ranks as I came on. I came out as an officer, then I was promoted to sergeant on patrol. So there was kind of a step to get to the top. And I'll be honest with you, up until about 3/4 of the way through my career, I never aspired to be chief. That wasn't a long-term goal for me. I was more focused on kind of the lower level, kind of I call it worker bees, where the officers are out there doing the work. But then at that point in my career, I could see that the department had an opportunity to make some positive changes and changes the way we were structured. And I thought I could contribute to that. But to prepare for it, you always want to work on your training and your education, and always aspire to do more and do better, and kind of interject yourself into different parts of the department. So that's where it kind of changed for me and prepared me for the position.
What kind of changes have you seen since you've become police chief that you're really proud of?
I think law enforcement in general, but I know specifically the police department, we always had this thought that we can fix everything in the community, and we can fix everything in the city, and we can't do that alone. And so we had to kind of back off of that and say, look, we need the community to work with us and help us solve the problems in the community. So I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to do that. Are we done? No, we've still got a long ways to go, but I think that the community has been a big help for us. We've seen it with our crime rate. We've had a reduction in crime consecutively for the last 5 years. And I think a lot of that is reaching out to the community and involving the community in what we do every day. And the community polices themselves, and we assist with that.
Cool. Do you feel there's a high rate of crime within our community?
I think if you compare us to communities comparable to our size, I don't think that the crime rate is essentially high. It is higher than we would like to see it. And again, like I said, 5 years ago is where it really peaked for us. But I think with the continued work that the officers are doing and the community is doing with us, again, we've seen a steady decline over the last 5 years. So I don't think crime in our city is any different or any worse than it would be in another city that's comparable to our size.
And my last question is there a lot of juvenile delinquency in Goldsboro? Do you see higher rates for Goldsboro or comparable again?
I think it's comparable. It is out there. I think what's changed for us here recently is when they did the raise the age. A lot of when you think juvenile, you think more or less 15-year-old and less. They've raised the age now to where juveniles are considered 17 or less. So it's kind of given us a bigger group to have to deal with. I don't think juvenile delinquency in Goldsboro is any more than it would be, say, in Kinston or Wilson or anything like that. But again, I think it's the way the department, the easiest thing for law enforcement to do isn't always the right thing. The easiest thing for us to do is to charge somebody or put something in the jail thinking we've solved the problem. Where we've shifted is, we don't know the history of a juvenile that has gotten, they made a poor decision. We've got to slow down and find out why that decision was made and what can we do to help that individual not make that same mistake. So I don't think it's rampant, it's large, it's there, but I think the community, and I think that we've been able to kind of work with it and move forward.
All right, thank you. That was all my questions. I'm going to turn to Vismitha for questioning for the Goldsboro Fire Department.
You're welcome.
Hi, thank you, Chief Dixon, for joining us today. So I have a few questions for you. So when did you become a fireman and what inspired you to do so?
Well, the first thing I'll start off is I became a firefighter because hopefully there's some young ladies out there that want to come into our profession. I became a firefighter. And that's one of the things, when we speak it, we have to speak it into existence. So I have to tell the people I work with that, yes, I am a male, but we recruit firefighters. So that was in November of 1993 that I became a firefighter. And was there a second part to that question?
Yes. And what inspired you to do that?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I was actually working in the defense industry. I used to work for a company, you hear about it, but Westinghouse in Maryland. And with some defense cuts and spending, we were laid off. So I opened my own business, but then I had a baby. And I was looking for other options because insurance, and if you're taking care of your children, you understand that you can take care of yourself. But when you have me, I was told you bring another life, and I would look for ways that I would be better provide for my growing family. And a friend of mine was going to take a test. It just kind of happened, and people were explaining to me. For those of you that don't know, firefighters typically, and it's in Goldsboro, we work about 10 days a month. So yes, I'm recruiting. So he was like, yeah, you only work 10 days a month. So that means that I could continue to do my business. And we have so many people in our profession that do have other businesses and interests. And there were so many tracks. So that's what, certainly, and I went and I got hired. Of course, he didn't, and the rest is history. So that was interesting.
That's great. So, what is the process of becoming a firefighter?
The process is different across the country. Here in Wayne County, North Carolina, typically we have a process where we actually looking to change it. We open it up in the middle of the year in June. Application process. You can go online at any time though, and actually fill out to fire.goldsboronc.gov and fill out an interest card. And we'll have that information on file. But once the application periods open up, we'll have a opportunity for people. We use something called the CPAT, Candidate Physical Ability Test, where we'll orientate you to the CPAT testing and give you an opportunity to learn what to do, make sure give you physical coaching. And then, of course, you have to have other things. There's the application process, your work a check sheet. You have to have EMT, a criminal background. I'm sorry, the work key. That's what it is. The work key. That's what they call it in North Carolina. You have to have all that to be considered for hiring. And of course, when you do have that background check, you have to be clear. Nothing major, no felony.
Right, of course. So, what are the benefits of being a firefighter?
I told you one, that's that working just 10 days a month. And typically, and that's if you're on shift work. But some of the other things is what we get to do. Chief West talked about it in the fact that when you are a public servant, because that's some people forget the reason that we exist is because of the community. And when we come out and we're able to make a difference, and that's what I'm talking about, making a difference in the community every day. It could be small because it's not always, the fact that Chief West is arresting somebody or we're putting out a fire, but it's sometimes we're just assisting a citizen. We get a call, we have had an elderly lady that, could you come check my smoke detectors? Now, if we had an emergency somewhere else, we couldn't go there right then. But if we're able to go do that, then we're going to do that. Last year, we had a young man that drowned. It was tragic. And we developed a swimming program for youth with the YMCA. So those are the type of things, those are benefits for the community. The benefits for the individual is that we still had, when I retired in Maryland, I retired after 25 years. And when I was able to come to Goldsboro and be hired as a fire chief. So these are skills that you can take elsewhere. Chief West, if he wanted to be a consultant, can go elsewhere and continue if he wanted to. If not, he can go find his beats, as they say. But those are other benefits. These skills travel. Public safety, emergency management are skills. As you know what's going on in our world today, that people are looking for people that have knowledge about this.
Yeah, and so would you say there are any disadvantages to being a firefighter?
No, I hate the term disadvantage because when you have a career or you're involved in a profession that you love, and they're saying that if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. There's some things associated with life, adversity that you will face. But when you go through adversity, like we just went through 2020, you survive. It makes you stronger. You can look back on it and say, yeah, there were so many people that didn't cross over into 2021. So when I'm in this career, every day hasn't been like, great, hey, this is a great day. There's sometimes you fail. There's sometimes you fall down. But the thing is, you don't stay down. You get better. You learn from it. And not only do I learn from it by teaching others. So the disadvantage is some of the things we may see, and I'll speak for myself. When you see people that have taken their own life, or people that have, because of the action of someone else, may be involved in a motor vehicle collision and has lost his life. When you see those type of things, sometimes you take that with you, and you have to have an outlet. So it's not a disadvantage. It's just something that the average person doesn't have to see that real time. Someone with a gunshot wound, someone that's been decapitated, they don't have to see that. So you have to learn how to deal, and everyone can.
Right, of course. And all those obstacles made you who you are today.
Absolutely.
So how did you become chief of our fire department?
I became chief of the fire department because Chief West liked me. And I mean that, no, really, he was part of the committee. So they did a national search. And as mentioned before, I'm from Maryland. So I retired in Maryland. Well, I was planning to retire in Maryland. But again, you have to be strategic in whatever you do. You young folks today, this is part of your development now for the future. So even as I was employed somewhere else, I was like, what am I going to do next? And I applied for this job, and thankfully, had developed the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and presented that in a fashion where they was able to articulate myself, that they selected me to be the chief. So, and I can tell you, again, I talk about that, and this is not when I tell young folks, because they look at these careers in public safety, I don't want to be a firefighter, I don't want to be a police officer, but I have someone right now paying me well not to come to work. And I have another department paying me pretty good, to come here. So that when you're able to do that, that is something, when you talk about security for your family and able to do the thing, I'm a little older now, but still able to do things that I like to do. That's a positive. And we still have, again, pension. We still have, there are a lot of places do not have, a retirement. You have a 401k or certain thing that you're into, but law enforcement, public safety, there also is some reform going on across the country, but I was able to take advantage of that.
Thank you. And besides firefighting, what other services does the fire department provide for our community?
Yes, ma'am. Well, one of the things that we just completed is developing the emergency operations plan for the city. So we have, and that's something that I work with the other partners, but I'm also an emergency manager, did that. Also the education programs. That's probably when you were in school, I hope that the firefighters in some type of way came out and engaged you and taught you about stop, drop, and roll, EDIF, exit drills in the home. That's part of it. And when you at a young age, you teach them when they're small. Hopefully when you grow up, one day when you have kids and you're like, please don't put that on me. But one day you'll be telling your kids about that, or they'll see the firefighters in school, and they'll have a good experience. And educational programs. We also work with one of the things that was important to me, like when we have hurricane, is to work with the clergy in the area to make sure that we have a connection to all the groups within the city, so that they know that we're here to serve them. So it's educating in programs that, again, with all types of groups, Goldsboro High School, middle schools, whatever the case may be, we want to make sure that we're out there and we are in front of them. Our Facebook page, go to our Facebook page. That's part of our education. Even in the midst of a pandemic, we were able to continue to read stories and connect with our community. So if you don't like us, say your name for me again, Vamithia?
Vismitha.
Vismitha. Make sure you like us on Facebook. So yes, that's another plug for us.
That's great. And that's all the questions I have. So thank you so much again, Chief Dixon. And I'm going to hand it over to Kendall now.
Okay, thank you both again. We really appreciate you taking the time to answer all those questions. I'm going to ask the rest of the members. Does anyone else have a question for Chief West or Chief Dixon? Okay, I actually have a question for the both of you. What was the hardest part of training? I know you have to get like tased and all that. So what was the hardest part of training?
Chief Dixon, you want to go first, or you want me to?
Well, because first of all, Kendall, I will. Hazing is, you have to be careful with that term hazing. There are some times when you come to a group, whether you're going to be a part of a fraternity or something like that, where they may take some liberties, but I don't want to use the term hazing. But the hardest part of it was me coming in. I didn't have any experience. Most of the people that come into the fire service, the vast majority of them have some type of volunteer experience. And when I came in, I had to learn everything because we had to pass the EMT during the class, and that was it, without any experience. But that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. But I had to learn. That includes all your everything about the body, all that. That was the hardest part for me, not the physical part, because I was back then I could do it all, but it was learning basically something new.
I do want to clarify. I meant tasing like with a taser, not hazing.
Oh, I thought you said hazing. Okay.
No, tasing with a taser, like pepper spray and the tase, but yeah.
Yes, we did have to go through the what they call it in the chamber, where we had to state our name and so on and so forth. That was not fun, but that wasn't hard. That's over like that. After it burns for a while.
Yeah. For me, it definitely was the taser. That's the worst 5 seconds of my career, and I don't care to do it again. But yeah, that was definitely for me.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
I don't have can I make a comment? Because I don't know if you guys, it's really important that, and I really appreciate you guys having us. And I think Chief West will echo that if you have a desire, there's so many young people now that, when they're looking for a career, they don't look to public safety. And Chief West has openings right now. I have openings right now. There's sometimes when you're looking to do something in the future and you see, and it's great to have vision and to see yourself somewhere, but there's sometimes where you could take a path that, there are a lot of people that I work with that came in. Once you get your EMT, you're like, hey, I like this stuff. I like dealing with the body. I want to be a paramedic. Now I want to be a PA. Now I want to be a doctor. There's a path to do that. And we help you with pay for your education. We'll help you. That's part of your, your benefit. So, please don't let anybody tell you, and I'll speak, and Chief West to say it for herself, but we work together all the time. They'll tell you, and especially members, and I will say this, sometimes minority community, they say, well, you don't want to do that because you look at all these things, they talk about bad police officers. There are a lot of good police officers. And if you were one, and if there's some type of injustice or something going on in your community, and you become a part of the change, then what does that make you? That makes you're already a hero, but you can be one of the ones that are leading good change. So don't let anybody tell you, especially those that don't have jobs. Like, I'm not going to do anything, but we're looking for good people. So consider public safety, because there's so many tracks. I don't know when the last time Chief West has pulled his gun out. I don't know when the last time that I ran into a burning building. So, there's administrative things that you can do. So don't let people brainwash you and think that this is the worst thing. It is a game changer, and it's helping your community. So I'll get off my soapbox, man.
Now that's, Chief, you hit it on the head. I mean, entry level, I think sometimes the police department, we can be kind of the entry level. You get into law enforcement and that's what you want to do at that time, but then interest changes, opportunities change. And, we've always tried to develop our officers for what they want to do in the future, build them to head there. If they decide they want to go federal, or they want to go state, or they want to go military or whatever, let us have the opportunity to get you where you want to go in life. Just give us that opportunity. So yeah, that's well said, Chief.
All right, thank you again. I really appreciate all the advice you all have to offer. And I can speak for everyone on behalf of the Youth Council that we really enjoyed having you tonight. So I'm going to turn this to Ms. Felicia. Do you have any announcements for us?
I have a question for the chiefs. I was just waiting for everyone else, but let me just first say that I took a lot of notes, chiefs, and it was just so good learning some things about the two of you that I didn't know. But Chief West and Chief Dixon, I do want to ask, what do you do, I guess, to de-stress or just to keep yourselves together? Like Chief Dixon mentioned, maybe seeing someone with a gunshot wound, or seeing a person that has taken their lives, or and Chief West, you mentioned about just the stress that it causes on your families, and God knows what types of things the police department sees and has to deal with on the day-to-day. But what do you do to kind of just pull yourselves back together and keep your perspectives and stay focused?
Yeah, you definitely got to have some sort of outlet, whether you call it a hobby or, a second job or something like that. I don't come home and include my family in my today's events. I don't discuss what I did during the day. I just choose to kind of leave them out of what I've experienced. But you definitely got to have a hobby or an outlet. And Chief Dixon will probably think I'm a strange individual, but I recently bought a dirt bike to go riding with my son. I used to, early on in my career, I was into racing. I built a race car, and I used to race out at Southern National. So I've always had some sort of hobby to just kind of disconnect. And I think where some officers, you've got to have that outlet. You can't be consumed by this profession 24/7. You've got to have that release. And yeah, I do the dirt bike thing now, and my son's into iRacing on the computer. That's why I'm on my old computer. He's got my new computer in the other room racing online. So you got to have an outlet with the family hobby just to get away and get a disconnect.
So thank you for that question, Ms. Felicia. I will share this. As an instructor, I taught a class on post-traumatic stress syndrome. And one of the parts in there where I say that for you young folks, you have to listen. So it's not what it sounds like, but when you're in a room of adults, and I said, well, I'm all effed up. So everybody's like, ooh, ah. But the F stand for faith, family, fitness, and friends. That's how you have to have that outlet there. Faith, for me, faith, family, fitness, and friends. You have to take care of the body. You have, in your fitness, people that you can talk to, because sometimes you just got to let it out. So somebody I can talk to about whatever, my friends, my family, you love on your family, and of course my faith, for me, my higher calling and being able to pray. And I think, that's it. You can't hold it in, because it's like a teapot. It'll eventually, or a vessel, if you don't have anything, it'll explode. So we have to do that.
Okay. Thank you. And then Chief Dixon, I have another question for you. What makes the processes different for becoming a firefighter? Is it across states or counties? What makes it different, and why?
Well, I know that, across states, because the process where there's some that require what they call the CPAT. And the CPAT is something that we're looking at right now, because it basically decimates our female candidates. But it's something that when I arrived, Goldsboro was using. But I've talked to other chiefs around the region. All of them do not use it. There's some that older departments use just a civil service test, run a mile, do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, or something like that. So that's the changes or the differences, across states. It just depends on where you are.
Okay. And Chief West, have you found that to be the same, or just processes and procedures different across departments or states?
The procedures, the department procedures obviously are different department to department, but the training to get in, it's standardized throughout the state. I'm going to go through the same training if I try to get on a department in the western part of the state as the eastern part. But then when you get into the department has different procedures, policies, general orders in place. There's a little bit of difference there, we do meet a national standard. But yeah, the training to get you onto the department, it's standardized throughout the state.
Okay. And just before we wrap up, Chiefs, one last question for both of you. I'd like for you to just kind of share and expound your thoughts. And Chief Dixon, I know you're from the DC, Maryland area. And Chief West, with you being law enforcement, just what are your thoughts and feelings? What can you share inspirationally, since you're on a panel with young adults, with what's going on right now currently at the Capitol?
Don't give up hope. And I think with the media, I don't think all media is bad, but I think media sometimes gets into, they've got an agenda or they've got something they want to get out, and they do. Don't believe everything you see on TV, but don't give up hope. All is not lost. There's still good in the world. There's still good in the community, and you just can't, this division, the division is just unbelievable. And it's, you can't throw somebody away because you don't think like they think or believe in what they believe. We're all still human beings. So just don't give up hope. And be the difference, be the change, and be what you want to see in the community or in your country.
Thank you.
And for me, be careful what you sign up for. When you go, when someone says, the cause may sound really good, but when you're having that initial conversation, or at some point in it, saying, well, what's the end result? What are we going for? Because when I was a part of the Freddie response to the Freddie Gray riots, and the community where it was the epicenter of it, North Pulaski, north in Pennsylvania, one of the areas that they showed on TV. I grew up maybe a little over a mile from that area. And to see my city tore apart, knowing that there's something in cities that they call market deserts, where you have no place to get food except this one place, no place for your grandma to get medicine except this one Rite Aid, and people were tearing up their own community. So whatever cause you sign up for, that was in no way advancing the cause. So just make sure that when you sign up for, like, hey, this is a great cause, what's the end result? What do we want to see? That you can see the steps, how that's going to get you to where you want to be. The other thing I'll warn you about is that they have cameras everywhere for you young people. So when you go out there and you want to protest, if you want a peaceful protest, is fine, but be very careful that when you're out there and you do something crazy, because a lot of those young people that jumped up and down on police cars, they found them. And now think about the competitive of the job market, and you have something like that on your record. Be very careful. So as Chief West said, there are a lot of things out there. Be encouraged, be the change, but be careful what you sign up for.
Thank you so much, Chiefs. And my last question is, we certainly not anticipating anything like that of that nature happening here in Goldsboro, but just say if it were something like that were to take place or transpire, how are your departments prepared to handle such an event or situation like that?
Well, for the police department, we've got the riot gear and all this stuff to prepare for that. And we try to educate the people if we get advance notice of something like that that's coming to the community. The recent events were the George Floyd protests that came to Goldsboro. And we had intel. We kind of watched at what other cities, what they were experiencing. And, we could have come across with all the riot gear and come out with a show of force that we're not going to allow this to happen in our community. But we decided, and this was a group decision between me and the officers, that peaceful protesting, that was the goal at that point. We're going to do peaceful protesting. Let's allow that. Let's come out soft-handed and let the protesters kind of dictate what our response is going to be. So we didn't overreact out of the gate. I think some agencies could have overreacted and kind of contributed to the negative aspects of it, but we were prepared, but we slowed down and just let it kind of start, and let's see how the crowd decides where we're going to go. And I think we did very well. I think the community did exceptionally well. So yeah, we're prepared, but sometimes you just gotta be prepared, but let's kind of step back and let's see how it starts and where it goes.
Thank you, Chief West.
I will sign off that our police department, the Goldsboro Police Department, they did do exceptionally well. In those type of instances, the fire department is a support agency. And one of the things that you always have to understand how things look. We always want to be, sometimes the police they have to go out there, they have to do the job, which means they have to lock people up. They have to take people into custody. Well, when we come, we have uniform. Like I see this tie on, people may misassociate me as a police officer. So one of the things we did, we had to, like you say, talk amongst each other. We were ready to support them, but we have to, when we go out there, we took our uniform off and we were just in our t-shirt because we didn't want people to think, they still do sometimes think that we are police officers. We are supporting them, and we want to be able to get to the people that, whether it is friendly or the people that riders or whatever the case may be, so that we can render help. And that's what, but anytime you have something like that, we're going to be supporting, we're going to put out fires, we're going to render first aid, but we follow the lead of our partners in public safety, and in this case, law enforcement.
Thank you, Chiefs. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, so we'll move right along. Thank you so much again, Chief West and Chief Dixon, for being with us on today. We certainly look forward to the future when we can partner again. So thank you so much for your time and your wealth of knowledge that you share concerning your careers. We certainly appreciate you. Feel free to sign off if you like. We're just going to wrap up our meeting with a few other things, and then we'll be done. So thank you so much for being with us.
All right, everyone
Absolutely.
have
Thank
be
you.
safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Vice Chair.
Right. So I have one announcement, and that's starting in February, the State Youth Council will begin an SYC movie of the month. So they're asking for movie suggestions by January 15th, and these movies need to be PG-13 and under. So if you have any like movie suggestions, just email Miss Felicia by January 15th.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about the SYC movie of the month? It sounds like it's gonna kind of be like a book club. You would watch the movie ahead of time. They're gonna allow a week or two for you to watch the movie for the month. And then the third Saturday, I believe, of each month, starting next month, they would take an hour, I think from 10 to 11, for breakout discussions about the movie. So this was inspired by the Hickory Youth Council. So the State Youth Council decided to share just to see if other youth councils would like to be involved. So far I've had one movie suggestion. So if you guys know of a good movie, definitely send me that in an email. Okay, and that's all I have. Thomas?
All right, if there's nothing else, we stand adjourned. Hope everyone has a good